So, apparently some leaks came out suggesting that Ratchet and Clank Ripped Apart will be coming to PC with the port developed by Nixxes. I think the leak is from a job listing or something, or maybe it was like an actual leak.
Don't know, don't care.
But even though this isn't confirmed yet, the Sony faithful are losing it. But there's some extra bite behind this one. Because this was one of the first-party Sony games that allegedly could only exist because of the PS5's super special magic SSD. In case you were doing more important things with your time a few years ago, Sony was going on and on during the PS5's marketing campaign about how insane their SSD was and how it was the coolest, sexiest SSD ever made. And they held on to that lie for a pretty long time. But assuming Ratchet and Clank Ripped Apart actually does come to PC, it's basically 100% confirmation that that wasn't a complete lie. Which us PC gamers knew from day one, but now it's undeniable because it's just out in the open. There's quite literally nothing special about the PS5's SSD. It's just an SSD. And needless to say, those who bought the lie are not happy about this, and I just think it's funny. Just to recap here, the PC has had SSDs for over a decade, so if you really thought the PS5 was unique in this regard, you've got
donkey brains.
Also, let's just say the PS5 actually did have the bestest, most sexiest SSD ever made back when it came out in 2020. If you actually thought that it would never be surpassed by PC tech, you've got
donkey brains.
Sony was lying to you from day one. The only thing that's changed is they're just not hiding it anymore. And that's what makes Ratchet and Clank Flip the Bart so juicy for PC gamers. That, and the game actually looks pretty fun. I may actually pick it up if the port's good and it's not completely overpriced like some other Sony ports have been recently. But like I said, PlayStation Twitter is not happy about this, and I've got some screenshots, and we're gonna have a nice little hoot about it because that's what we do here. Honestly, I hope not. Ratchet and Clank has always been a PlayStation exclusive. It will break my heart, break emoji, if this happens. If it does go on PC, oh well, there's nothing I can do except complain. No drama please, peace, I'm just explaining how I would feel. Thumbs up. You realize that the emoji keyboard is not part of the alphabet, right? Like, can we tone it down a little bit, please? I would appreciate that if we toned it down. But first of all, it would break your heart if this game goes to a different system. It would break your heart if more people got to play it. Because if you really enjoy these games, you would think that you'd be happy that more people get to play it. You know, like if you really like these games, if you really enjoy Ratchet and Clank, wouldn't you be stoked that more people who don't want to buy a PlayStation would get to play it? But oh no, I'm not allowed to say that because you said no drama, please. You just said a giant thing like how you'd be heartbroken if Sony did something pro-consumer, but no drama, no drama. I said something blatantly dramatic, but no drama, peace. Grow a spine, holy shit. PlayStation will run over its exclusives with these unwanted ports, focus on the PS5 and leave out the PC. I like how you say these ports are unwanted, but also nice ratio. But what is it, focus on the PS5? Were they not already doing that? The game was exclusive for PS5. It was allegedly built for PS5. What's the problem with it coming now? I don't remember when this game came out, if it was like I forget if it was 2020 or 2021. Point is, the game's been out for like 2 years now-ish. So, why do you care? Can we at least agree that if you were going to play this game on the PS5, you've probably already done that? So, who is hurt by this? Just because Sony is bringing games to the PC doesn't mean they're not also putting effort into the PS5. I mean, isn't there a new PS5 coming out later this year? I heard about a PS5 Pro coming next year. And I mean, you got games like Spider-Man coming later this year. So what's the problem with old games coming to PC? Yeah, I'm sure the PC players will love a game that's the, I want to say, 9th mainline installment in a console-only franchise, while also being a love letter to PlayStation history as a whole. I'm all for PC ports, but this one just makes no damn sense. Because the only way to enjoy this Ratchet and Clank game is to play every other Ratchet and Clank game. That's right, everyone. Ratchet and Clank is just such a story-driven, narrative-focused experience. Like, on one hand, I get it. Like, I gave Sony a lot of shit when they said they were porting Uncharted 4 to PC before any of the other Uncharted games. I still think that was the dumbest thing they could have done. But with this, that doesn't super apply here. It's fucking Ratchet and Clank. To imply that Ratchet and Clank is super dedicated to its narrative and its like linear narrative structure is first of all, that's a little awkward because wasn't the 2016 game a full reset, but also to imply that the understanding or the enjoyment of the most recent Ratchet and Clank is somehow dependent or tied to the ones that came before it. Like, it's just not that kind of franchise. That's like saying Mario is that kind of franchise. It's like, you can't play Mario Galaxy 2 unless you've played Mario 64, or you just wouldn't get it. Like, it's not that serious. It's not that serious. Good luck for the dimensional transitions then, thinky emoji. Yeah, there were a lot of people in this thread who didn't seem to understand that you didn't need Sony's specific SSD to do the SSD related things. Again, going back to the whole lie that the PS5's SSD was somehow super unique or especially powerful when it's just not that. Like, I'm not denying that the PS5's SSD is quality, it's decent. Like, it's certainly a quality piece of hardware, but it's not the best, and it's not nearly as essential as Sony wanted you to think it was. But there I go again, trying to explain hardware to people who don't really want to understand hardware. They just want to see a Sony logo on something. I thought this was only possible on the PS5, but well, a typical lie from Sony. Yes, you are catching on. Sony fans, Microsoft are cancer for not putting their games on PlayStation. Also Sony fans, Sony exclusives should be for Sony platforms only. That is interesting. It is funny how it's only a problem when Microsoft does it, huh? It's like, yeah, Microsoft are the worst people ever for putting their games on every platform except PlayStation. But PlayStation better not put their games on other platforms. Like, just say out loud that you want PlayStation to be the only gaming hardware. Like, just say it out loud, don't dance around it, just say it as one sentence, I only want PlayStation. Just be upfront about it and we'll move on. A great way to ruin such a unique franchise. It belongs more on a PlayStation than a PC. Quick question. Why? Genuinely, why? Why does this franchise belong more on a PlayStation? I thought it was a video game, and therefore belonged on whatever you play video games on. But there I go again, being, not a dick. The more PlayStation exclusives that come to PC, the more I see no reason to buy a PlayStation 5, so keep doing ports I suppose, even though they're pretty damn stupid. If a handful of games is the only reason to buy a PlayStation 5, maybe the PlayStation 5 just isn't that worth it. Like, if the only thing drawing you to this expensive piece of hardware was a handful of games, maybe the hardware should try a little harder. You should be drawn to a piece of gaming hardware by things like, I don't know, the services, the performance, the support, the promise of longevity, those kinds of things that you usually put into a tech buying decision. The point is, if you're only buying a console because a handful of games are being held hostage there, you're kind of part of the problem. It's not too late to fix it. I'm not saying you're an asshole. I'm not saying you yourself as a human are a problem, but participating in that is a problem. And, it's never too late to break away from that. This game looks fun. I'm excited to play it. Assuming it comes to PC and assuming it's reasonably priced, I'll pick it up. I'll play it. I like classic 3D platformers. I grew up in the early 2000s. I have fond memories of the PS2 era. I would love to play a Ratchet and Clank game on PC. And even though I haven't played a Ratchet and Clank game since like 3rd grade, I would be happy to pick this one up. Look at that. I'm a PC gamer who wants to play a game, and I'm gonna buy the game and play it. That's crazy. It's almost like Sony has a free money outlet that they're just not taking advantage of for Bloodborne. Seriously, where the fuck is Bloodborne?